Hello, today I'm going to show you how to take a can of sardines and after you've eaten it you can make an automaton, and I'll take you through how to do it. You can download the drawings and a few instructions on my website, link below. And the only other thing to say I think is that be careful. Don't take what I'm doing as a recommendation. Make your own risk assessment. Be careful where tools are going to slip if they slip. Stay safe and enjoy making it. A few considerations when you go to buy your sardines. First of all, try and buy tasty ones. Secondly, try and find an attractive tin. There's quite a lot of different tins out there. Having a pattern, nice picture on the top's not that helpful because we're going to take the top off, although we could incorporate it later. I'll try on that with this one because it's a nice tin. But very important, try and find a deep tin because it'll make fitting the mechanism in a lot easier. Now, if you can only find a shallow tin, or you find a shallow tin with a particularly nice pattern that you like, we can use that, but we'll have to adapt the design a little bit to incorporate the mechanism. Okay, now we can get started. First thing to do is to download the files. You get 3 pages. The important one at the moment, after you read the other 2, is the middle page, which has got the parts, quite small parts. I'll just go through what we've got here. I'll just put this out of the way. So on the top of the page we've got the cam followers and the cams to cut out. The cams need a hole that's the same size as your wire, and the cam followers need a hole that's a little bit bigger. So if you've got a 2mm wire, then a 2mm hole clearly is what you need. You'll notice there's a little box there on that top cam follower. The idea is to show you where to cut if you intend to use plasticine modelling clay as a counterweight. So have a look at those in a moment. Underneath that you've got a cross section from the side showing where all the parts are going to fit with the fish on top there. Under that you've got a template for cutting the holes in the tin can. Very important to get those holes in the right place to get the axles part. Under that we've got the fish, and at the very bottom, importantly, there's 2 boxes, 30mm and 1 inch. Just check to make sure that you've printed out at the right size. Sometimes printers print at a different size to 100%. You just have to double check if you've not got that 30mm or 1 inch square correctly. So what we need to do first is cut the parts out. So the way to do it is to cut the paper out first. That's the easy bit, I can tell you. So cut the paper out, and then I glue it onto the wood. Now if you've got a laser cutter you can use the SVG slide that I've supplied and laser cut them, but if you can't get through 6mm ply in one go you'll need to cut several layers and stick them all together. So the joy of this project is that you don't need a lot of wood, you don't need a lot of material, so the parts are very tricky, quite small, but if you get them wrong it's not a big disaster to have to make them again, it just takes a little bit of time. So it's a Pritt stick type glue. It's a bit of a knockoff one, this one I think. I quite like it though because it's actually quite weak, which means that it comes off the wood very easily. So I just give that a good old sticking over and stick it on the wood. What's important though is to get it to go with the grain. So you need to get the parts. So what I'm going to do actually is cut it again. So get the parts so that the grain of the outside wood is going with the length of the part, and the same with the cams. Make sure the points, the bits that stick out, are going with the grain. So you stick those on and then go to the, you can do it with a hand fret saw, hand scroll saw. Tricky, but you can do it, or a machine scroll saw or fret saw is better. But before you do that, it's much easier to drill the holes. You can either use a hand drill or better still a pillar drill. Drill the holes first, makes it easier to cut out. So good. Here's all the little parts all cut out. Get rid of that bit of paper there, shall we? Don't really need that. Got the 3 cam followers and the little cams. Now each of these are going to be doubled up on the axle, just so that when the cam follower fits on top of them, it's not going to slip off. First of all, we need to make sure that the holes are the right size. So I've got a little bit of 2mm brass there, and it should be a good, just use some pliers, a good friction fit, which it is. I can just get it on and move it round, so that's good. Do that with all of them, whereas the cam followers, they should swing quite nicely like that. Okay, so now we'll get into the crucial part. We need to get our tin can. I suggest you wash it out before we use it, otherwise it might be a little bit too realistic. And we'll cut out the template for the... Actually, I'm going to cut this out actually along the line rather than leave space. So cut out, there we are. Good. So here's the tin can. The little hole that I'm using 1.2mm brass wire is going to go through that little hole, and the 2 bigger ones are just over 2mm. That's first one is where the cam axle goes, and the second one where the cam follower goes. It's important to get those distances correct. Now this is where you need quite a deep can, because the holes are going to go so. But what you need to do, first we're going to put the cam shaft in first. There needs to be room in the cam for that cam to turn round without hitting the bottom. So it needs to be quite high, but at the same time we need to make sure that we're still going to manage to get the top hole in. Now if your can's too short, what you're going to have to do is come lower, then the cam's going to hit the bottom, so you're going to have to cut a hole in the bottom, then perhaps put a couple of feet on so that it still works. But with this one I can get there, so we need to get it exactly central. Get it central, and then I've got a sharp point here to do it with. You could do it with a nail, I suppose, but just it's very thin, the tin, so I can just push through that hole and make a mark. Try not to bend the tin. The top one is the tricky one. Right, I might have to come back to that top one. Good, I can see my holes. So there's the hole. So I'm going to actually make the hole with the pin. You could drill it with a little Dremel drill or something, but this, I think it must be aluminium, isn't it, or very thin tin. So you can make a hole. Nope, not quite. So you can get any width of hole with this because it's got a slope on it. And we need a hole at this. Good, now we need one the other side. Nice thing about these tins is that they got ridges in them here, so you can just find the corresponding ridge on the other side. Will be well. So push that down. So no, I say that. I don't think there's that. Oh, there we are. So I'm just going to do this by eye. Good. See how that goes. Yeah, I think that'll work. Nice thing about this design is you don't need to make a frame, it's all there in the tin can. The only problem is if you mess it up, you've got to eat some more sardines. Right, so there we are, we've got the axle going through. It's a slight angle, didn't get it quite right, but I think it's going to be right enough. Let's just check that the cam clears. Push the cam through. Yes, it's close, but it does just clear it. Right, so this has got to have the crank handle on it, so we need to find some. It's easier to get this wire in than it is to get it out. There we are. I'll just put the template over there a little bit for a while and I'll find some more wire. So, what I'm going to do, is the right way around. Good, so now you can see I've got it just sticking out a little bit. Get rid of that one. So I'm going to measure it now with the pliers. Just squeeze, so there. Good, now just bend it over. And we got the first part of the crank handle. Push it in again, make sure I got it right. Right, it's best if it doesn't hit the floor, otherwise I've put a stand on it, so I'll come back up here. Just go slightly above the floor. Good. I'm sure you can do it without another pair of pliers, but it's easier to have one. So I'm going to bend that over. So we've made the crank shaft there. The handle's a bit long, of course, but what we need to do now is just cut it off. Quite a lot of pliers have some snips on them, which will do the job fine, I think, so I think that'll be about right for a handle. Snip, there. Now the problem is now we have it's quite sharp on the end. You can use a bit of sandpaper to smooth it down. Doesn't take long. Or you can use something like a Dremel or something, or a disc sand. Smooth it off. Got any sharp edges, particularly on the handle. Good. So now we have the crank handle in place. Next I'm going to put the cams on. First of all we need something to tie that. And, in the paperwork there was a few extra ones of these, and they make quite a nice little blocker for the end to stop it pulling out if you've got a spare one. Otherwise you have to cut a little one with a hole in it. Sorry, should have told you about that beforehand, but hopefully I went through the video before you started making it, so you've been forewarned that you need a little to make a little washer to hold the crank handle in place. Just cheated a bit and made a couple on the lathe. Right, so we push the crank handle through the hole. First we put the little stopper on this end, push it through. Now we start feeding the cranks on. So first we start with the small one small one, push it on, another small one, so that's the first cam. I made a 12mm wide cam with two 6mm. or 1/4 inch pieces of wood. Gets more difficult as we move along here. Now in the middle we're going to put this shaped cam. This one's got 2 ups, so it goes twice, it makes the fish go twice as fast as the first cam we put on. Again, 2 of those, if you can find them. Keep shimmying everything along. It's quite stiff, but that helps. If you find that these cams are too loose, what you can do is put some super glue in the hole and let it dry. And that just lines it, and that should make it a better fit. Let it dry before you put it on. Otherwise, oh, come on, stuck. Right, I'm going to start holding this with the pliers now, of course. Now we've got so many bits. Give you quite a challenge. Careful not to dent your can. Last one. And finally, I made a second washer to put on that side. Stop it going too far in. This is probably one of the more difficult parts of the whole exercise, actually. So, line them up. What you want, those small cams, you want the pointy bit pointed in the opposite direction on each one of them, so the fish don't go in together. And then the middle one with the 2, you get that in between, so it's not pointing the same place as either of the 2 pointy bits. If you follow me. Now then push that in, get it all a little bit further. Good, now we have the cams turning quite nicely. So that's the first part done. What I'm going to do now is just glue all that lot together with a bit of super glue, because I've got them in a nice place, right places. The small cams, the points are opposite each other more or less, they don't have to be exactly, and then the middle one is in between the 2, so good. Let's put some little bit of super glue in there now to hold them. Just run it down the sides, it's on the end as well, and that should seep in now and hold them in place. Just move that washer that I put in along. I want to glue my fingers. Right, super. Yeah, move that washer along, let's just move that back again. That washer at the end is just stopping this pulling out when you're winding. Make sure you don't get glue in either of the 2 axle holes. But yeah, great. So now, pretty easy sailing, I hope. We need to make the next hole now. If you remember, I marked it already. So I just put another hole, another one just, oh, careful not to jab yourself, really. So, yeah, super. See if I can get this one parallel with the other one at least. Sort of not really a difficult project this, but it's quite a challenging one. But you can always, I say, start again and you've not lost too much if it all goes pear-shaped. Push that in. Right, there we've got the second axle now for the cam followers. Fitting the cam followers is much easier, of course. Let's just do a test fit. So they're going to go like so. And the axle goes through. Cut it to length. So we need one sitting on top of each of those cams. You can see that. So that when we turn the handle, let's see what happens. They go up and down, push the fish. Make sure that they go all the way down. They do. If they don't go down, you might have to cut a bit more off the bottom, or cut that out if they don't go all the way down when the cam goes across. In fact, mine is. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I think. Let me fit the fish. I don't think I'll glue this one in place yet. I'll wait till the fish go. But as you can see, what keeps happening is that the cams are sliding along. So what you need is some spacers. Now then, automata making is all about problem solving, and now you've got to find a way of making spacers. Very easy if you've got a lathe. You can just drill a bit of plastic rod and make the spacers. But a few alternatives would be, if you've got an old biro, ballpoint pen, use the plastic in that and just cut it to the right length and thread it on like beads. And that's the second thing you could use. You could use very small beads if you can find some with a 2mm hole in. You could roll paper, cut thin strips of paper and roll it. You could just put little cardboard discs and glue them in place. Lots of alternatives. You probably think of your own as well. But some cap, I've now got the cams in position with the pointy bits, the two single-sided ones there, pointing in the opposite directions, and then the other one in an intermediate position with a double space. I've got a couple of washers in there to hold it in place, which I've actually glued so that the crank handle can't come out. Right. And then we have the 3 cam followers, which are going on the upper axis there. Just push that in, and as we said, the problem is it all works very well, but they can move laterally, so they need some spaces in there. I'll show it to solidarity with you here, and I'm going to use a biro, and all I have to do is just cut the right lengths. Just doesn't have to be exact, we'll just do it by eye. Just cut the lengths off. Actually, it's surprisingly tough. First we need a spacer, which doesn't actually fit. Need a bigger biro. Before you go to a lot of lengths, just check to make sure the biro bits fit. That's no good, is it? We'll save those till later though. They might work later with the fish, so I need to find another solution for that, if you excuse me a moment. Okay, what I found is a little bit of, I think it's sort of like silicone tubing, sort of thing you use in aquariums, but anything will do, I suppose. Just need to cut the lengths off now. At least it's a little bit easier to cut than the biro. Again, need 4 lengths. Could just use a string of little washers, of course. Anything really. We'll do it. Macaroni, perhaps. Let's so feed those on now. Wash. See if they fit. Cam follower. Whoops. Washer. and follow up. One last wash up. It's difficult to see now where the hole is. There we go. Excellent, that works quite well now. Good. Now the next thing I want to do is put some counterweights on there. Again, many ways you can do it. You could just put a space out and put modelling clay in there, or cut a hole and push a metal bolt in. I'm going to just stick some washers on. Good, there's a few washers which I'll now glue onto these parts. Probably do it with them in situ actually. Just put a bit of glue on there. I usually just blow on the things a little bit just to get a bit of moisture. Just helps it set. Marvellous, good. Put one both sides I think, so it's not to unbalance it. Also get a bit more weight. Of course it's got to lift the weight of the fish. So, on the washer. What would we do without super glue? There's one. Next one. Bit of glue. Marvellous. Now we've got, yeah, working well now. I won't glue anything in place yet, just in case. So next, what we need to do is put the little wooden bit underneath each side just to cover the tin over. This is where I'm going to use the plywood. Very thin plywood. You could use card as well, but this is pretty easily available in craft shops, and certainly if you go online you can get it in various thicknesses. Really good, particularly good. You can cut it with scissors, which I think is great. So let's get rid of this biro that I didn't need. Needs to go at both ends, so what I'm going to do is turn the tin over. Just draw the shape on that side. It's going to be too big of course there, but and we need it to come, it doesn't need to go, doesn't want to impinge on where the fish is going to be, so we need to across there. There's one, just cut that out. Just draw the line that we need to follow, so it's got to be inside the tin obviously. Again, just cut it out. Perhaps don't use your dressmaking scissors for this, but otherwise works okay. See if it fits. Yeah. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try and glue it underneath the rim. If there is no rim on your tin, you'll have to put something underneath to support it. I think this is going to work. What I want to do now is put the axle for the fish in, and this is where it gets a bit trickier. It needs to be fairly high because the fish have got to rest on top, so the line, if you remember, we marked it and the line just going to the bottom of the white there. So what I think I'll do, I will try and drill from the inside, will be easier. So, again, not sure what to call these pointy things, but they're really useful. This is I just bought this from a second-hand shop. It was a bric-a-brac type thing. It's really really good, very tough, never seems to blunt, and it's excellent for doing this sort of thing. So there's one place we want to go. Let's just do the other side. This one is central, of course, and the other side, just what I think. Then what I'll better do is do that with a drill, I think. Again, if you've got a Dremel drill, this is much easier. Little hand drill. Don't make them anymore, I don't think. Haven't made them for many years, I suspect. And I'll drill from this side because it's much more secure than trying to do it on the outside. There's one. It's very thin, so it doesn't matter that the drill's at a slight angle. There's the other. That was it's about 1.2 this. I think the drill's 1.4, but it's not that critical really, as long as it's relatively loose. Right, let's see how that goes. Right, it fits okay, but it's really tight because that rim is pushing it up. So what I need to do is just bend that rim down a little, I think, out of the way. Good. See if it's any looser now. That'll be fine, because this hasn't actually got to move in the tin. The fish will move on it. Good. Now then. So now we're going to cut the end two pieces off. We want to cover those two ends. We want to leave clear the bit where the cam follower pushes up against the fish. Let's glue those in place next. And we need something just to hold them in place. What I use is an Allen key normally. Anything will do, but this will just hold it up there, look. So push this one in. So just hold it against the Allen key. And don't drink too many coffees before you do this, because you need a fairly straight hand. Right, if we hold it in place, I'll just tack it with a bit of super glue now. Sorry, you probably can't see a lot, but needs must. Right, just hold that up there while it sets. Again, breathe on. Moisture just seems to help speed it up a bit. Strange thing, super glue, if you put too much on, it doesn't set. It needs to have a fairly thin layer before it sets on you. And it sets very quickly. Good, well, let's do the other side now. I'll just take that wire out of there just to make it a little bit easier. Find where I put it. So, again, a bit of manual dexterity required just to feed it under there. You know, say if you don't have a rim, you need to put something under there to support it. Just a little block of wood or something. Anything really, again. Depends how permanent you want it to be. Modelling clay would also do, just to make the right position. A bit more there. Again, hold this in place. Let's just make sure that the cam's working. Yep. Everything seems to be working, just about. Right, now all we've got to do is put the fish on. So the fish, here's the fish. What you need to do is glue these again on the wood. cut them out. First of all, just measure to make sure they're going to fit on your tin, because not all tins are born equally, I suppose. Got to make sure that width-wise and lengthwise they're a good fit within the tin. Take away. So these good length, width-wise, yeah, all right. That's a little on the tight side, but not too bad. So again, now I won't go through the whole rigmarole again, but this needs, what I'm using here is a 8mm thick lime wood, easy for carving. You could use balsa wood, could use pine wood. Pine wood's a little bit more difficult to carve. Could just use 6mm ply and have flat fish. They could also look very good once they're painted. You don't have to be too elaborate with it, particularly with your first attempt. You can always refine it later. But yeah, glue those on there with the prick glue and cut them out with the scroll saw, fret saw. But what you don't want to cut, don't cut these lines. Just cut the whole fish out. And then once you've cut him out, if you want to shape it, and I shaped these on a band sander and hand sanded them as well. You could carve them. Say you could just leave them flat, about 6mm. Don't shape the bottom. You're probably going to have to cut bits out of the bottom. We'll just shape the tops, and then we'll see if they fit. So let's lay them on there. Hopefully the glue doesn't give away. Still a bit of wet glue on there actually. I don't want them gluing down. Let's just find a bit of tissue paper and get rid of that. Let's wipe that off. Good. So right. Yeah, they're well above the cams at the moment, the cam followers, so we're going to have to cut away the bottoms a little bit to get this thing to work. But now we want to, remember those lines there, we can decide where to cut those now. So the best thing is line your 3 fish up. You can see where the axle is going to go because we've already made the hole for that. Let's just put that line on there. Then we can draw on each fish. So what we're going to do, we're going to have the tongue part go that way. Remember the axle's going through there, so like so. So basically with the fret saw, scroll saw, we're going to cut along those lines so that we have a fish that's capable of jointing. So we do those with all 3. Okay, I found my fish already cut now. So we drew the line on, if you remember, across where the axle goes. So now you need to drill holes through there. And the hole needs to be, I've already pre-drilled this one, as you can see, and I show you in the video how I did that. But the hole needs to be towards the bottom of the fish, not in the middle. Leave a little space so it's strong enough, but get through there. Just do it by hand if necessary. Go through one and then reposition, hold the drill in there and reposition to get the other side, go straight through. That's about a 1.5mm hole. It just needs to be loose on whatever size wire that you're using. And then the tail, let's have a look. I numbered them underneath. It's important to number them 1, 2, 3, otherwise you're forever trying to work the jigsaw puzzle out. So they fit together. You don't want them tight, otherwise they can't move. There's got to be a little bit of separation. In the video I drilled them with my hands. Now perhaps you're not happy doing that, or perhaps your drill's a bit too big and it's too dangerous. So if that's the case, best thing to do is just get some wire. Probably best hold it in a pair of pliers. And if you get some wire that's been chopped off with the pliers, it's usually quite sharp. So you can push it in and you can make a mark where you want it. And then when you've got the mark, you can just hand drill quite safely through the other bit. So you need to do all three. The other thing you need to do, it's going to go up this bit here. It's best to take that off, just so it can bend up better. It doesn't catch then. And if necessary, also this one. Probably won't be necessary on that bit, but this bit certainly. And you can either do that on a Dremel sander or something, but with this lime wood, which is pretty soft, and if you use balsa it will be even softer, you can just do it by hand. It goes even faster if you use coarser sandpaper. There we are. Just finish that off there. 1, 2, 3. And the wire. Just for ease, I think I'll cut the wire down a little bit. Make it a little bit over long so I can get it out still. So threading them on, number 1. And the hole I made. There we are. Number 1 and number 1's tail. Not too bad. You can see absolutely nothing is happening. So first of all, we need these fish to be lying flat. At the moment they're sort of like so. So we need to take a little bit off the fish. So let's just draw a line showing where they are. You don't want to take it all the way because you don't want to hit the bit where the cam follower is going to push up on it. But there, there and there. And you can carve this away with a knife or use a bit of sandpaper. Let's just carve those away now. Right, went to do the rest outside, so got rid of the dust. It's the only dusty bit of the exercise really. Let's have a look now how it fits. 1, 2. This is where we need the plywood again. What I'm going to do is cut some little shims. Needs to be narrower than the fish. Out. And I'm going to glue those where the where the con follower comes up. So that's the first one. And we keep putting them on until the thing works. Right, that one's jumping up and down. Let's see what that looks like. Again, you could shim it with the stiff cardboard rather than the plywood if you haven't got it. Good. So there's one going. And notice if we move it across there, that will need a different shimming. The middle fish is going faster than the other two. Right. It's all working. Now what it needs to do is paint. Transforms it, really. Nice bit of paint. Now the fish don't need to paint underneath, just the tops. Can't really see the underneaths. Let's finish painting these fish on. Should we put another head in there? Yes. There, just let the paint dry now. Then come back to it and put some colour in. Now I'm going to paint the oil, so I'm going to make a yellowy coloured oil now on the can. If you've got sardines in tomato sauce tin, might be better with a red one. So a bit of yellow, and I think just a slight greenish hint to it. See how that goes. Looks pretty good. So just carefully paint that on now around the fish. Brighten it up a little bit. There we are, looking good. So there's the oil done. Now I'll do the eyes while we're on the yellows. Give it a bit of a shake. These are acrylic artist's ink. They're quite a thin colour, that's why you need the white underneath really to... Right, just paint yellow in the eyes there. We can paint over the black again later if necessary. Just put a lighter shade of yellow on and then I'll come back and with a slightly redder shade on some of the eye just to give it a little bit more form. I just carve those a little bit, so we need to make sure the paint goes inside there. Get a bit of paint around the sides. Right then. One. Let's do the next. Part. So I'm just going to go around the aisle a bit with this darker orange and orangey yellow. We're going to put too much on. Seep it off, and that just gives the eyes a bit more texture. See? Hold it here, right. Right. Oops. Just leave those to dry now, and then come back and just add a little bit more black to them, and the painting will be done. Right, I'll just put the final bit of black paint on. Oh gosh, poured far too much in. Good job, it's a big pot. Right, I'm just going to put the lateral line down the fish. And this is a little bit bare, so we'll put a fin in there, I think. Good job, right. That's the painting finished. Now then, as it's acrylic, you could just leave it like that. I think I'll just put I will later put a spray of varnish on it, just to make it a little bit shinier. But as it is, you could use it like that. So we'll let that dry and then put it all together, and we'll be just about there. Okay, I've varnished the fish now, they're nice and dry, so time to fit them. If you remember those little bits of biro that I cut and were too small, I can actually use them now, at least some little bits of them, just to washer the fish on each side. So we've got them numbered still, 1, 2, 3. So just a matter of fitting them onto the little axle now. A little bit of biro on the end. Let's pull it. Right. What I'm going to do now, I've already glued the cam follower axle in, but I'll just glue in just a tiny drop on it. Don't want too much, else it'll go in and jam up the mechanism. Good. We have ourselves a automaton. If you've got any questions, I know I probably didn't explain everything perfectly. Any questions, just stick them in the comments and I'll try and answer them. But yeah, there we are. Nicely finished. Quite a simple automaton, a little bit fiddly to make, but doesn't use much wood or anything, and if it all goes wrong you can always start again. And you do get to eat the fish. Not so good if you don't like the fish, I suppose, but quite an effective little thing. Notice the middle one is going faster than the outside too, and because we had those cams opposing each other, notice the tails are not going up and the heads are not going up at the same time there. Quite pleased with that one. Thank you for watching, and do download the drawings if you want to make your own, and good luck with it. In a future video I'll explain how I came about the design considerations for how I made it. So if you subscribe, you'll see when that comes out. Thank you.